Causes of poverty in Tanzania. There are many causes of poverty in Tanzania. Some of these include political instability and corruption, flooding, droughts, deforestation, and ethnic conflict. There are also some other causes that are driven by the global economic system, which features a neoliberal economic approach with structural adjustments. Tanzania's economic problems have been fueled or made worse by the ongoing financial crisis that began in 2007. The country has been forced to pay its international debtors because of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank's structural adjustment programs, SAPS. Poverty in Tanzania caused by corruption. The poverty in Tanzania is caused by the corruption because leaders steal from their own countries, and the people are suffering without any food and water, or education. If corrupt is not stopped, poverty would be increased, which means too many people would die from starvation and lack of water. Poverty is prevalent throughout Tanzania, affecting over 40% of its population. The Tanzanian government has historically struggled with corruption, which is estimated to cost the country 5% of its GDP. In 2009, Transparency International ranked Tanzania 161 out of 180 countries on their Corruption Perceptions Index. Poverty in Tanzania caused by lack of good jobs. Poverty and gender inequalities in Tanzania are caused by a lack of good jobs. In recent years, high population growth and declining productivity levels have added to the issues that Tanzania faces. Gender inequalities are some of the biggest causes of poverty in Tanzania. The poverty level in Tanzania is much too high. There are not enough good jobs for the people of Tanzania because their area does not have many farm or factories. They hardly have any natural resources, and the jobs they do have are unsafe or low wage. Extreme poverty in Tanzania has risen sharply. Despite the African country's recent economic growth, many of its citizens are still struggling due to a lack of good jobs. Failing healthcare and poor education have led to poverty, and more than one-third of the nation's population is living below the poverty line. A mix of the global recession coupled with regional instability, illegal poaching and terrorism have also been cited as reasons for Tanzania's extreme poverty. But recent reforms by the government include stronger legal protection for healthcare workers, along with an increased focus on maternal health in order to slow population growth, making it possible for greater job opportunities to open up for others. Causes of poverty in the Philippines. Poverty in Tanzania caused by weather/climate change. The prevalence and consequences of poverty in Tanzania are linked to weather and climate change. Data for the analysis were drawn from two nationwide surveys conducted in Tanzania in 2007 and 2009. The surveys were part of a wider study that aimed to examine the effects of climate change on households and communities. Poverty is a serious issue in Tanzania. Tanzania's economy relies heavily on agriculture and fishing, therefore, it is severely affected by changes in weather patterns. For example, El Niño affects the entire country in terms of its agriculture and fishing output, which leads to unemployment, migration, and food insecurity. The poverty rate is almost 50% of the population, and the maternal mortality is from 575,1000 deaths per 100,000 live births. Poverty in Tanzania caused by social injustice. Poverty in Tanzania has always been a cause of concern. About 41% of the population still live below the poverty line, and their situation is continuously worsening. Despite the country's economic growth and impressive economic reform, there is little sign of improvement in the lives of people living in rural areas as compared to those living in cities and towns. The reasons for this are many and complex, but it is alleged that one of them is social injustice. Poverty in Tanzania has been an issue since at least the country's colonial history. It is the destiny of a large proportion of Tanzanians to live in poverty. Because of its economic policies, much of the wealth created by Tanzania's natural resources stays outside the country in foreign lands. Historically, the long periods during which the country was ruled by repressive regimes have limited both social mobility and opportunities for individuals to improve their economic conditions. Poverty in Tanzania caused by lack of food and water. Poverty is a complex and widespread problem. It happens every day because of a number of conditions, from poor health to inequality of income. Poverty is often just a symptom of something else. People living in poverty are most likely to be poor due to a lack of food or water. Poverty is not only a situation but also a cycle where poor people remain poor. Poverty is an urgent issue in Tanzania, with women and children suffering disproportionately. 100 million people live in extreme poverty on less than $1 a day. The average life expectancy is 46 years, compared to the worldwide average of 70. Due to lack of food and water, the current population growth rate exceeds 3% per year. Poverty in Tanzania caused by lack of government support. In Tanzania, poverty is a consequence of lack of government support, which in turn is caused by the lack of national unity. The reason for this lack of unity is the high cost of elections, which make younger generation leaders less willing to participate in politics. The high cost of elections heavily burdens the government budget, making it difficult to carry out its other duties. Poverty level can be reduced significantly by increasing foreign investment and encouraging private companies to invest their money in Tanzania. The children of Tanzania suffer greatly from poverty, despite the country's natural resources. This is because the government has historically not supported its agricultural economy. Even today, it is a poorly paying job. In fact, most families must employ 2 or 3 people in order to make enough money to survive. According to current estimates, almost 25% of the population live on less than $1 per day. Poverty in Tanzania caused by inequality. Our results indicate that poverty in Tanzania is not caused by poor growth performance, but rather stems from poor distribution. Analysis of inequality led to a greater understanding of the main factors behind poverty in Tanzania. The study emphasizes the need for policy intervention to improve the poor living conditions in the country. In Tanzania, where a minority of people benefit from development while the majority live in poverty, you have the opportunity to create positive change. Volunteers at ARDI learn to develop their own skills, as well as transfer skills to others, giving back to their communities and demonstrating real and tangible ways that development can happen. Poverty in Tanzania caused by lack of education. The African country of Tanzania is the 3rd poorest country in the world, in large part due to a severe lack of education. Despite the government's attempts to include education within its people's daily lives, recent reports show that more than 50% of the population remains illiterate while the rest have almost no access to higher education. 5 million Tanzanians, 16% of the population, live in poverty resulting primarily from a lack of primary school education. Poverty in Tanzania forces many families to make hard sacrifices, such as sending their children to work and marrying them at a young age. A key factor that continues to perpetuate this cycle of poverty is a lack of education. In order to escape poverty, children must have access to quality education, the only way out of this vicious cycle.